Welcome to episode numero uno, or one for us people that speak Scottish, of Fourth and Out. My name is Chris Murray. I am joined by that beautiful man over there, Scott Hastie. We've decided to get together to share our vast knowledge of the NFL game and decide a few things that we'd like to share with you. Welcome, Scott. Thank you so much for joining me on this adventure.
I'm really excited to do this. I think you and I might be the kind of like most amicable Steelers and Ravens friendship in maybe the whole entire world.
Yes, in the history of all known sports, perhaps it's the most friendly rivalry.
We should hate each other. We shouldn't even be friends, but it works.
And that's the end of the show for this week, folks. Thanks for. I basically, I'm not gonna lie, I'll give you the full backstory on this. I was in the shower earlier on last week, and I had this revelation, because we're in this beautiful point as we sit and record to you right now, where the regular season has ended. All 256 games were successfully played. Thank you, Roger, and all of your pals. But we're in this beautiful period between now and the official end of the season after the Super Bowl, where we get to, start thinking about next season, start thinking about a few things. So, Scott, why have I dragged you out of bed today? What are we going to do?
Well, there are quite exciting times coming up for the NFL. We've obviously got the playoffs and we've got the Super Bowl. We have the NFL draft, of course, will make its way around before summer as well. But really, the most exciting thing for me every year is free agency and the decisions that get made in terms of personnel. And I think this year, especially after what's been a really interesting season for a number of reasons, there might be quite a lot of quarterback movement. And I think that's what we're going to talk about today.
Yes, bang on. So my question to Scott was, and continues to be, what if we go through all of the NFL's 32 starting quarterbacks, asterisk, because obviously lots of teams started more than one, how many will be starting the beginning of next season? And we're going to go through them all and attempt to figure that out between us. So hopefully it will be an enjoyable listen and an enjoyable watch. If you enjoy what you're watching or listening, please leave us a comment and tell us how much you are enjoying it. If you're not enjoying it, then screw you. Who are you to judge? And we are going to dive right in. Scott, I actually made myself a coffee beforehand in my beautiful Steelers mug. As you can see, I got it for Christmas and it's almost the size of my head.
If we do manage to ever make another one of these, we need to wear both of our Christmas jumpers, which we both got without even planning it. But we basically both got these knockoff, like off license Christmas jumpers that are exactly the same pattern, but for Ravens and Steelers. So
yeah,
if we do another episode, we need to wear those.
I actually had a worry that mine was going to arrive like after Christmas Day. And if it did, I was like, just don't send it then, because I'm never going to wear this in public or in a normal scenario. But yes, so I got myself one of those. Actually, shortly just before we started, I was thinking so much about certain positions and certain players and what I've been thinking about them, that I think I like sugared my coffee, then put the milk in, and then I think I re-sugared it because I wasn't fully paying attention. So I've seen about half an hour, I'm absolutely fleeing and declaring my love for whoever's in about 8 picks time, then that'll be why.
Excellent. I love it. And just before we get started, the last thing I want to say is this show is called Fourth and Out. And the reason it's called Fourth and Out is because all of these quarterbacks are like in the red zone. They are 1 yard out. Are they going to be fourth and in and keep their job, or are they going to be fourth and out?
Which is perfect, and it's considerably better than the name that I suggest, which is Spider 2Y Banana, which I thought was a fun joke between me and Scott, and he immediately went, what does that mean? And I was like, nope, we're going with your name. So it's fourth and out, and here we go. So, Scott, for part one, would you like to do AFC or NFC?
I think let's start with our homeland, the AFC.
Beautiful, beautiful. Right. So we'll start in the significantly better conference, in my opinion. I love AFC teams much more than I love NFC teams. Obviously, we both live in the AFC North. There's a whole bunch of other teams from the East, South, and West, which I will easily favor over any of those dirty NFC teams in the Super Bowl. So let's dive right in. So, what say you, Scott? We'll go to the North last, albeit it has probably less contention than a lot of them. We'll do East and West in the middle, and we'll start in the Deep South.
Ooh, okay, I love it.
So, I will go through them all and I'll pose them to you. Now, there's a couple of very interesting situations in the AFC South. Starting, of course, with two teams who have vacancies at their head coaching position as of right now, when we record this. If you listen to it after this weekend or some other time, don't get on the internet, give us grief if stuff's changed. So we'll start with one of the most interesting positions in the entire NFL. In the AFC South, you have the Jacksonville Jaguars, who have a vacant head coaching position, and they had a delightful cheese board of starters at the NFL quarterback position. So Scott, you can give me your thoughts on all of these. I think Gardner Minshew started a good few games. Jake Luton started some games. Mike Glennon started at least one. The Wikipedia page for the Jaguars 2020 season hasn't even been updated past 11 games. That's how badly it was going. So kick us off. What should the Jacksonville Jaguars do at the quarterback position?
I think the Jacksonville Jaguars have played phenomenally in tanking. They've been better than the Jets at it, and therefore they absolutely deserve to land Trevor Lawrence. It's going to happen. I know that neither you or I kind of are religious viewers of college football, but the guy looks, he looks the real deal. I've not seen anybody make any bad comments about him. You would think that he's going to come in and do what we've seen a lot of rookie quarterbacks do this year, and he's rated a lot higher than a lot of those rookie quarterbacks this year, and a couple of them have done quite well. So you would think that the Jaguars are going to bring in Trevor Lawrence and hopefully next year, not necessarily challenge for playoffs, but certainly get a lot more than one win on the table, I would think.
Yeah, it just doesn't feel like a one-win team looking at it. And if I'm being honest, Scott, this was one of the first ones I wrote down. I said, "Clear out the yard. We're having a sale." Now it's interesting because Gardner Minshew and Jake Luton are both under contract for 2021, but I don't really see that affecting this situation too much. I see Mike Glennon gone, first of all, because he is not under contract for next year. I see Jake Luton going to the practice squad because I'm pretty sure you can do that if you've played less than 4 games. Correct me if I'm wrong, NFL nerds. And I see Gardner Minshew, and I hate saying this because how fun was he to watch last year? He should rightfully be returned to a backup role / playing the opening weeks as starter as the team build around insert new quarterback from the draft. Trevor Lawrence, of course, being the most obvious choice with the first pick. And yeah, that's pretty much consensus chat that he's going to go to the Jags. So that should be quite exciting.
Yeah, I actually slightly disagree with you. I think Glennon's gone. I think you're right there, but I also think that first of all, the Jaguars are not a good enough franchise to start another quarterback week one. They'll bring somebody in as a rookie and start them week one. And you and I have spoken about this before. I never think starting a rookie quarterback week one is a good idea. They need time to kind of bed themselves into the league. But whoever they draft is going to play week one. It's going to happen. In my opinion, I think Luton was okay, and I think the difference between Luton and Minshew is not really there. So if it was me and I was head coach, I would probably retain Luton as backup and actually try and get some kind of pick for Minshew, because I think he can do a job somewhere, and I think the pieces he had around him weren't necessarily very good at the Jaguars. So there might be a team in the league that needs a good solid backup that can play behind a starter that's like obviously going to play every game, like someone like Brady or Wilson,
Yeah.
So I think there's a bit of shopping to do with Minshew personally, but we'll see what happens.
100%. And obviously he has now that experience of starting, because he started a good whack of games last year and came from nowhere to do it. And he had so much hype and buzz about him with his bloody amazing haircut and facial hair. And the buzz did sort of die off this year, but he was fighting for the starting spot all the way to the end of the season this year. And I do kind of love the guy, even though he's a bit mince. So, and you're right in what you're saying about starting quarterbacks week one. Look at the success stories. Look at uh, Patrick Mahomes. He started in week 17 to get his, sort of dipped his toe in the pool there, came in the next season, exploded. Likewise with your boy Lamar, didn't he start like halfway through a season in relief of Joey Ice?
Yeah. Cool.
And
Yep.
it's been a winning formula ever since. But yes, right, we shall move up the road a little bit, because we've got another vacancy in the south, and or we should definitely move south, because that is terrible. Or southwest, I don't know. We're going to go from
Jacksonville, and then are you moving downwards towards Texas?
Yeah, but it's also sort of along. Who knows? America's a weird shaped country. In Houston, we have the brilliant Texans with their beautiful, amazing, starting in NFL adverts, absolutely dynamite quarterback who played all 16 games, one of only 5 quarterbacks in the AFC who managed to make it through all 5. It might be 6. I'll check my notes once we go through them. Deshaun Watson, 16 games at Houston Texans quarterback. Is he staying?
So this is really interesting. So technically, our little game here is: should the team keep him? The answer to that is yes, emphatically. The Houston Texans are probably in a, some people don't talk about it, but they are in as bad a shape as the Jets in a lot of regards. It's a horrible franchise. I cannot remember the last time that the Texans had a good news story. All they seem to get is bad news stories, and they've just not got enough faces of the franchise. They should never have let Hopkins go. It was a horrible mistake. But even when they had Hopkins, like they were still bare at so many different positions. It's just a badly run franchise, and this is probably the only player in that we're going to talk about that I did a bit of research on, because I don't know if you know this, but Deshaun Watson this season, despite the fact that he's lost Hopkins, despite the fact that the rest of the guys around him do not give a hoot, they don't care. A lot of those players are just turning up and making their money and going home. They don't care. Deshaun Watson has stayed quiet about losing Hopkins. He's stayed quiet about all the bad stuff that's been going on at the Texans, and he's thrown almost 5,000 yards this season, 33 touchdowns and only 7 interceptions with a passer rating of 112. If that was a winning team, he would be in the MVP conversation. He's not going to be in the MVP conversation because he plays for a 4-12 team. It in football over here in Britain, there is a phrase that I don't particularly love sometimes, where people will say that if a player is not getting game time, or they're a really good player stuck at a bad team, they're being held hostage at that team. And I think it's a bit of a daft phrase, but I honestly think Deshaun Watson is being held hostage at the Houston Texans. The poor guy's career is just he's never going to get the credit he deserves there. Over the past few days, I'm not sure if you've seen it, but there has been gossip starting to spark up that he does want to trade. And boy, oh boy, would any Texans fans deny him wanting that trade? He totally deserves it. He needs to move to a much better team, a playoff contender. The boy needs a ring. So to answer your question, yes, I think the team should move heaven and earth to keep him, but I can also see him leaving, and I just don't know what's going to happen with Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, I agree. So I think he's one of the biggest locks in the NFL, not in terms of Drew. I think he's got to stay, because I think he's one of these players who's never going to leave the team because he's just too great. But oh my God, did they do him a dirty this year? Imagine someone halfway through this show came and said, "Oh, Chris, you're not allowed to be on this anymore." and just dragged me away and made me go sit with somebody else and talk to them about NFL, I'd be raging. Like, that's exactly what they did to Deshaun, and took away his number one weapon in Hopkins, and it made me really mad. And this season just showed, like, I pick the Houston Texans to win for the first 4 games of this season. I think they won none of them, and I was just really raging about it because I was like, you guys are better than this. As you said about his stats, I'm going to just build on that. He was second in passer rating this year to Rodgers. He was third in completion percentage. He was number 7 in touchdowns. He was number 1 in passing yards. He led the league, even though he's thrown to people like my dad. Matt, get off the field. Statistically, he had the best season of his life. So let him help pick the new staff. Let him help build this team around him. Give him a shout for the head coaching job. Give him a shout. Not give him a shout to take it.
That'd be great. I mean, yeah.
Give him a shout to actually have a say in it. Likewise with the GM. Like, I heard him say recently that the team is a bit directionless at the moment. So, like, the reason the team is directionless is their GM has done them an absolute dirty over the past couple of seasons, because obviously it's not just last season. This has been going on a while. So yes, like, go to Deshaun, ask him all of his, ask him what all of his favorites are, ask him what his favorite ice cream is, ask him what his favorite color is. Factor all of these things into getting a team that will help Deshaun win, because Deshaun's the best chance you've got of winning. So don't waste him anymore, Houston Texans. Good God, please don't. Especially when you've got a division like this, which is one of those divisions which, never seems to produce a consecutive winner. It just always seems to throw up something different every year. So, yes, let's roll on now to a couple of locks. We've gone from 2 teams that are a bit all over the place to 2 teams who started quarterbacks all 16 games. And let's go south first of all in fact, no, we'll end on the division winners. Let's go to the team that's ended up with a wild card spot. Indianapolis Colts under Frank Reich played Philip Rivers for all 16 games. Now, Scott, I think this is a really important chat, and it's a really interesting chat. Will Philip Rivers be the starting quarterback of the Indianapolis Colts at the start of the 2021 season? I was very specific how I worded that.
Yeah. I think the answer is probably. If I was the GM there, I wouldn't. But I think it's been a really, really nice comeback tour. Because he was dreadful with the Chargers last year. And he's had a couple of games where I've thought, right, they're losing because of Philip Rivers here. The Colts, this year. But you know what? He's turned around and he's pulled off an 11-5 season. I'm quite impressed. I am. And he's had a couple of really good games. He probably deserves to be back next year, yeah.
I think that it all depends on this weekend. Hopefully we'll get it out before this weekend happens. If he gets a doing in the wild card round, then he'll step away and retire. He'll know, right, I wasn't good enough. I am out of here. If he comes close, or if he takes the Colts to the divisional round, then he's coming back. It's Indianapolis or bust. He's not going to go anywhere else. Jacoby Brissett's been good in relief of him, but he wasn't great when he started on his own last year, when they were in that sort of, in between quarterback girlfriends at the time. I could see him coming back, and I kind of don't want him to come back, because he has these moments where he's sneaky amazing, and it makes other AFC teams like Steelers suffer. Thankfully, he had one of his meltdowns that you mentioned against the Steelers this season, which led them to the AFC North title. The other thing is, as well, is something that you have said to me off air a bunch of times, like, we'll just be watching NFL and you'll be like, think Philip Rivers is going to Philip Rivers this game, where he just mysteriously finds a way to lose. But overall, he has been way better than whatever they were doing last year. So hopefully we see him again.
Yeah, I think the Colts are in that weird part of their life where they had the high school sweetheart, and for some reason divinity went the other way, and they're now making somewhat questionable life decisions with a few partners. I just wish Andrew Luck was back.
Yeah. I actually watched a video that he did where he went round to John Gruden's gaff to do a bit of quarterback training. I was like, Andrew Luck, why are you such a nice man? I miss him every day of my life. Right, let's wrap up the AFC South with your AFC South division winners, the Tennessee Titans. They've came from nowhere in the last few years to just be dynamite. They're such a fun team to watch. It's came from it's came from a bunch of men, but one man has led them, and that is Mike Vrabel, and he has led Ryan Tannehill to all 16 games this season. If I was Ryan Tannehill, every single game, I'd be running to a video camera and going, "Fuck you, Miami Dolphins, look what you did. I bet you feel like fannies." But I'll go to you first. What do you think Ryan Tannehill this season, and will he start the 2021 season?
I think he will. He's incredible. He is probably, I cannot believe I'm saying this comfortably, but he's one of the top 10 quarterbacks in the whole NFL. He is. Like, statistically, he's probably closer to top 5 as well. Like, I'm probably being coy saying top 10, but if there's one thing that this proves, it's that Adam Gase should never ever get another coaching job. Like, he obviously cannot coach quarterbacks. Like, because of how good Tannehill's been, I'm fully expecting Sam Darnold to win the MVP next year as well. Like, Tannehill's incredible. He should be back next year. People always talk about Derrick Henry, but Tannehill is the key cog to that team. He's incredible.
As I mentioned at the top of this, he's one of the I think it's only 5 quarterbacks in the AFC who started all 16 games. I think it's Carr, Rivers, Watson, Tannehill. Who's number 5? Carr, Rivers, Watson, Tannehill. There's another one I've missed. Carr, Rivers, Watson. Maybe that's 4. And he's just been so brilliant, Scott. It's been so much fun to watch. I love how every time he scores a rushing touchdown, he just looks so happy with himself. Like, I genuinely feel like on every play that he makes a successful, progression downfield or a touchdown, whatever, Tannehill feels in himself that he's done something good. And I love that. As you say, he had a really statistically good season. He also got a big extension. So real regression would be required in order to bump him from this team. The Green Bay game was a major blemish on his season, but like, he started at Miami for so many years and then he went to Tennessee. He's probably never seen snow in his life. Like, he probably walked out on the pitch that day and was like, what is this dangerous stuff falling from the sky? Do you know what I love so much? And this happened in week 17, and every time it happens, it makes me so happy. Run pass option, fake to Henry, Tannehill runs it in for a touchdown. Like, that play cannot be stopped because you can't cover them both without extreme difficulty. And if you cover them both, then you leave Tannehill open to pass to somebody. They've just got such a good setup just now. Long may this continue. He made the Tennessee Titans cool again. Like, they haven't been cool since Air McNair 10 years ago, 12 years ago, 2008. 13 years ago, because it's 2021. And it's just so much fun to see. And I'm happy Mike Vrabel's doing it because, like, Mike Vrabel's a character who I literally remember watching play. I think he was at the Patriots, and he was during that era where
they were Belichick's babies.
Yeah, he was during that era where they were just amazing. And do you remember that footage from last year where you see Vrabel like being like a lineman and practicing with the guys and showing them how to like push off and get in against the opposing lineman? Just everything about this team is so attractive and fun to watch just now. And long may that continue.
Apart from this weekend.
Apart from this,
it doesn't continue this weekend, ideally.
Right, throw it in quickly before we move on. What's going to happen in the Titans-Ravens game?
A lot of my hair is going to fall out, but I genuinely don't know, Chris. I don't know.
Right, Scott, you are a fan of New Japan Pro Wrestling, so let's go east, and we shall go to the AFC East. Again, some moves potentially being made. We shall start at the bottom like we did with Jacksonville. We'll start with another vacant coaching position. Let's start with the team you mentioned briefly earlier on, the New York Jets. Now, I think if I've got this correctly, Flacco started 4 games this year, with Sam Darnold starting the remaining 12. Unless there's some other player that started a game that I missed. But what's the quarterback situation next year?
Yeah, Darnold's really good at picking up like really random diseases nobody's heard of. Like he's probably going to get like
or something.
Spanish influenza next year to keep him out a couple of weeks.
It's like COVID-17 or something.
COVID-17, yeah. Man, Darnold's a really interesting one. I'm a fan of Sam Darnold. I think he's talented. I also think Adam Gase has been coaching him the past 2 years, and that's really difficult to kind of get a good read on. I do also think there's a lot of evidence leading towards binning him as well, which is unfortunate. So I'm pretty 50-50 on it. Personally, for me, if I can take my opinion, I would keep him. But that's maybe not what we're doing here. We're trying to predict, and I predict it's probably likely that they might bin him. They might move on. They're going to have a decent amount of picks in the draft. They can probably get a good rookie quarterback. And they're a terrible franchise, so that's probably what they'll do. They'll get a rookie and start on week 1. So, yeah, I don't know. I think Darnold can have a career in the NFL. He can be successful, but I don't know if it's going to be at the Jets.
Yeah, for me, it's sort of a double issue. It's time to move on, in my opinion. He's not played well this year, whatever way you look at it. Obviously, there's been all sorts of daft reasons he's been out, but alongside that, like they're going to have a completely new organization this year. Basically, like there's no point in saying that the Jets were tanking because every person in charge of the team that could be tanking all get the sack immediately. So it's time for this team to have a new start via the draft, get a quarterback in there, get one of those good, because am I right in saying, Scott, you'll know more about this than me because I never watched college football and probably never will, but there's like 4 first-round quarterbacks. Is that right?
It's really interesting. Like at the start of the year, there was 2, and then obviously they played this season, and now there's 3 or 4. Yeah, but it's a lot weaker than last year. Like really, every set of eyes is on Trevor Lawrence. I don't think it's a good class.
Yeah. The other thing I wanted to say before we moved on is let's talk about your boy, Joe Cool. He started, I think, 4 games. I can't remember if he won any, but do you see him sticking around? Do you see him retiring? Do you see him backing up someone else somewhere else?
I think he's got legs in him. I think he's definitely got an arm in him. I think he might stick around. The issue with Joe is that like it's only been 3 or 4 years now removed when he had that monster contract. And his wages are probably still very high. And
Yeah.
that's always going to be the sticking point with Flacco. I think he could still be one of the best backups in the league. I really do. I think he's better than a lot of the backup names that we could mention. Like he's miles ahead of like a Mike Glennon, but I think he's a pricey backup.
Yeah.
That's always going to be the problem.
Okay, Scott, I don't want to have this conversation, but I'm forcing myself to do so, like brushing my teeth before I go to bed at night. Bill Belichick and the New England Patriots. You had Cam Newton start the majority of games. Brian Hoyer started at least one in relief of Cam when he had COVID. What's going to happen here next year?
Well, I think, in my opinion, Cam's had an all right season. I think he wanted to come back and prove a point. They won 7 games. One of them was against us. Yeah, I think he's had an okay season. I really do. I mean, it's not like he had a lot of like toys to play with. And some of his run play was electric. So yeah, I think he looks the part. I think he can start in the NFL. I don't know if the Patriots are the right fit for him though. And I can see them. I think what the Patriots will do is they will try to move on from Cam Newton. I think they will look at all the chess pieces. I don't know if they're going to draft a rookie quarterback. I'm not sure if that'll be a priority for them because they don't have good draft position, and I don't see them kind of trading up because they'll have to give away quite a lot just because of the amount of teams that are after a quarterback, I think. I don't think they need a quarterback as much as a lot of teams like the Jets or the Jaguars do. So I think they will look at free agency. The Patriots, I think they will wait until the draft's done and they will say, right, we can upgrade from Cam here. And it would be easy to get an upgrade from Cam because there's a lot of better quarterbacks in the league. And they'll see what they can do there. Whether they do upgrade or not, I don't know.
Let me tell you some numbers because I've just been on over the cap. Cam Newton is on a contract worth $1.75 million, 550,000 of which was guaranteed. That is 1.19% of the Patriots' total player spending. And then let's go to some of Cam's stats. He threw for 8 touchdowns against 10 interceptions. He had 600 rush yards and 12 rushing touchdowns. This was a guy that had coronavirus. Let's not beat around it. I don't think he deserves to get bumped at all. I think you should not only be signing him again, but you should be signing him to a better deal than you paid him last year. I don't know if they go through the draft or if they go somewhere else, but I'm going to be really sad if Cam's not there next season. Me and you, I was with you the night that Cam hit his absolute peak, going to the Super Bowl and getting absolutely done in by Denver. And you were a massive fan of his that night. You've been a massive fan of his in the past. We've had so many conversations about Cam Newton and how we both kind of love him, but he kind of sucks sometimes. Like, do you remember that season? Was it last season or the year before, where I think they started like 4-0 and then finished like 4-12 or something like that? And it was like, how does this team keep losing? It's Cam Newton. In May or whenever it is of this year, April perhaps, it will be 10 years since he was drafted first overall in the 2011 draft. And that just feels weird to say it because he never seems like he's a quarterback that's been in the league for 10 years. I'm going to officially say it that I want to keep him, but they will move on. And I actually want to throw something out there. What does Bill Belichick love? He loves bad boys that he can reshape and refigure into something good. I see Bill going after Dwayne Haskins. He's sitting there. He's not doing anything right now. He's not on waivers. He's completely free. He's sitting on his couch playing Madden, probably as himself. That's what I'd do if I was in the NFL. I think Hoyer will stay on for experience to a rookie, to Jared Stidham, or to Dwayne Haskins. And I think that's your quarterback room for next year. And good God, do not ever start that Stidham guy. He just seems a bit mince. But yes, that's the New England Patriot room. Let's move up to the two teams that had a massive year in 2020 and managed to get so much better than they had in the past. We'll start with the team that almost grabbed a wild card, but they couldn't overcome their division rivals in Week 17, the Miami Dolphins, coached by Brian Flores. They had a nice even split of Ryan Fitzpatrick starting 7 games and Tua Tagovailoa starting 9 games. Scott, that's the first time I've ever said that name to another person.
I was impressed there.
I've not screwed it up yet, 100%. And yeah, so what do you think? What's going on with this room next year?
I'm just going to say Tua. I'm not going to try it. But yeah, I'm going to say this, which is a bit controversial, and I'm not just saying it because I'm a Ravens fan and they were one of our rivals, but I'm really glad the Dolphins didn't get into the playoffs because I think it's too early. I really like what Brian Flores is doing. I think they've got some really, really, really nice pieces on offense and defense. It's amazing when you think about how the Dolphins looked 2 years ago and how they look now, not just in terms of drafting a great quarterback in Tua, which he is, but like the way that they've built more of the team is really impressive. And yeah, they totally deserve 10-6. They will be challenging next year. I would keep both quarterbacks, and I think the reason being is that Tua has been good, but I've just not seen highlight reel kind of stuff from him yet. He's won like 4 or 5 games in a row. I know. Obviously they lost Week 17, but he won like 4 or 5 games on the trot when they brought him in, and I was like, wow, that's actually like he's not actually doing much, but he's winning the games, and that's really impressive. Yeah, I think he's had an okay start to his NFL career, but I do think that there are times where he's just not been electric enough, and actually there's room for a bit of Fitzmagic still. And the way that they've done it this year, where Tua is obviously the starter and Ryan's there as backup, I would keep it for next year. I think it's a really, really good mix.
Yeah, you've hit the nail on the head. Okay, right. I'm going to reference my friend Kat, who calls him Tungo, which I kind of like. It's a cool little nickname. Miami succeed next year by keeping Fitzpatrick and Tungo. They need both. It's like It doesn't work if one of them isn't there. They're just this perfect combination of old and new. All that footage we saw this year of when Tua was losing his first game and he was on the sidelines talking to Ryan Fitzpatrick, and Fitzpatrick was like, this is going to happen and you have to be mentally ready for this to happen. He's not messing about. Miami Dolphins aren't going undefeated next season. It's not 1975 or whatever it was. Tua or Tungo will progress with Fitz helping him. And I don't think it's successful unless you have these two exact players back. I think they will keep Tungo, but I'm not sure about Fitz. And here's the reason. He's on the hook, or was on the hook, for $5.5 million in 2020. Will he get that money next season? He absolutely should, but I'm not sure if he will. Or could he go elsewhere and do what he's done so successfully elsewhere? Like, could he do the same at Jacksonville or any of these other teams that are likely starting a rookie? Hopefully not. Hopefully they're smart enough to keep things exactly as they are. Right, let's roll on now to the, oh my God, what a team this was in 2020. The Buffalo Bills. Scott, before I start, can you name both of the Buffalo Bills starting quarterbacks in 2020? And I will not make any bones about the fact that this is a trick question.
Trick question. Oh, wait a minute. I know who it is. Is it Josh Allen and wide receiver? Is it like is it like John Brown?
Oh, you're so close, right?
Stephon Diggs.
Week 17, the Buffalo Bills started in the Wildcat. So a direct snap to Devin Singletary means that he was the starting quarterback for Week 17. I love stats like that. It's absolutely mental. Right, so for the most part, Josh Allen, I mean, he doesn't get in my 5 quarterbacks for the AFC club that I mentioned earlier on, which is definitely only 4. Buffalo Bills, Sean McDermott has led them to a phenomenal season. One of the highlights of this season for the Buffalo Bills wasn't a winning a game or doing anything particular. It was when they beat the Patriots and Bill Belichick went over to Sean McDermott at the end of the game and did the longest post-game chat, where they do the hug and the handshake thing. He did the longest one of them that I've ever seen Bill Belichick do. And if that isn't a sign of respect and credibility for Sean McDermott, then I don't know what is. But let's ask the stupidest question in the NFL. Will Josh Allen start for the Buffalo Bills next season?
Yeah, and he should be carried in by manservants on a, like an old age
like WrestleMania.
Yeah,
the little carts.
He should get a grand entrance every week. Man, I love Josh Allen so much. He's probably my favorite player that doesn't play for the Ravens in the NFL. Yeah, he's so incredible. And you know what? I'm gonna put this on tape, and it's fact. I was so early on Josh Allen.
Mm-hmm.
I called it so early when everyone was like, I was like, no, this kid is a baller. And I'm so glad that the Bills have come on. It's so crazy the amount of moves that they've made that just make total sense that nobody else saw. Like going for Stephon Diggs and taking him away from the Vikings when he was there alongside Thielen, and you had 2 of the best wide receivers in the league, and the Bills just went, fine, we'll just take one of the 2 best wide receivers in the league, and guess what? It worked. It's amazing. I just think the Bills are tremendous. As soon as the Ravens get plonked out of the playoffs, I'm Bills all the way.
Yeah, and of course, don't do a dirty on Cole Beasley either, who did a similar thing but the season before. Not shown as much this year due to injury, but a great wide receiver combo. Stephon Diggs, of course, led the league in receptions and yards, I think. Of course, they're going to keep Josh Allen for next year. In terms of quarterbacks who've progressed since they came into the league, Josh is way out in front. 2018, he had a 53% completion percentage. 2019, 59%. 2020, 69%. Nice. He scored more touchdowns in 2020 than he did in 18 and 19 combined. And he has, and I'm going to say this on record as well, Scott, he has the best damn chance in the whole league of taking down Patrick Mahomes and the AFC. I have a weird mental rule that you're not allowed to have repeat winners of the Super Bowl. That's a rule that Scott hates. So I need to support someone that isn't the Kansas City Chiefs this year. It's going to be the Steelers until they inevitably get put out. Let's make this interesting. Starting quarterback next year. Well, I don't know if it's going to be Devin Singletary. He's heading into the third year of his rookie deal. His numbers were down on 2019. You could say he's on a little bit of a sugly peg.
Yeah. Listen, the Bills are going to be one of the last draft picks in the first round. Most teams are after a quarterback or a wide receiver or like a defensive piece.
Mm-hmm.
They could probably get the best running back in the draft, or one of the best running backs in the draft. They should.
Speaking of running backs at quarterback, let's head over to the AFC West and Vic Fangio and the Denver Broncos. And oh my God, let us never forget the day that the Denver Broncos played a game without a quarterback. One of the best things that's happened in the NFL ever. So let's go through them. You had Drew Lock starting a bunch of games this year. You had Jeff Driscoll. You had Brett Ripien. And actually, technically, starting the game in the Wildcat was Philip Lindsay. I can't even remember the guy's name.
No, I remember the play. It was great. They kind of just blocked and he tried to run forward. Didn't work.
I want to pay special tribute to their emergency quarterback who came in that day, but I'm not going to pay him that much tribute by remembering his name. But good God, Scott, break this down. Tell me what's going to happen in 2021.
So I'll get it. I'll get out of the way quick. I'm a Drew Lock fan. I like it. My favorite moment of the whole entire season, and I can't remember what game it was, but the Broncos had just conceded a touchdown with like a couple of minutes to go in the fourth, and in like jogs Drew Lock, just like calm as a cucumber, leads them up the field, scores a touchdown, and as everybody's in disbelief, he's like back on his side doing this like Drew Lock dance. I can't remember what game it was, but it's the best thing that's happened this season. I'll find and send you the clip.
I think that you're talking about his fourth quarter comeback against the Chargers, which was in early November.
I think you're right. Yeah. I just like, I've always kind of been a fan, but that was special. Like, I was just like, yeah, he needs to be kept around in this league. He's probably too cocky. I think that's his problem. He I think he cares more about himself looking good than winning games for the team. And maybe he just needs a better coach, someone that can, scare the fear of hell into him. But I do actually think he's a good player, and I do think he can perform in this league really well. Unfortunately, I'm really worried that they move on from Drew Lock after I've said all that, because I think whilst I believe in him, I'm not convinced the Broncos do.
You know how Jared Goff is Ryan Gosling?
Yes.
Drew Lock in the NFL is Dave Franco to me. Like, I think they just have the exact same face. James Franco's wee brother. And I think that, okay, let's not beat around the bush. Is a bit of a shit show in 2020, not least of all because of COVID, but also because of their actual quarterback play. I'm sadly the opposite. Like, I don't rate Locke very highly, but I do think that this team stick by him, and I really hope for improvement. Like, he's capable of stepping up. Like, there's been those games, those comeback wins, like you pointed out, but there's other times where, and I don't want to use your point against you, but there's sometimes where he doesn't really look like he's arsed. And you can't be that, especially the Denver Broncos. Like, they're a big franchise. They're one of those teams that's out in the middle of nowhere in the US. So they've got this massive, like huge wingspan of support across like the north west of America. So I hope that he steps up. Just to give you a bit of goss on the other side, Jeff Driscoll is signed on for 2021, but he doesn't have any guaranteed money, so he could be cut for really limited dead money before the 1st of June. And Brett Ripien is going to kindly go back to giving out water bottles once 2021 starts.
You know what? Them bringing in a rookie who can push Drew might be the right answer.
Mm-hmm.
Like aim to start Drew, but actually have someone there that's kind of lighting a fire under his arse.
Yeah.
That might be the way to go.
Yeah, definitely. And the other bad team in that division, or a team that currently don't have a coach, we're talking the Los Angeles Chargers, moved on from Anthony Lynn this year, which I know Chargers fans and they weren't really happy about, but I don't think anybody could really argue that he had to go. They had Justin Herbert in at quarterback for week 2 to week 17. And of course, our boy, Tyrod Taylor, started that one opening week game.
Screwed again.
Break it down for me, Scott. What's happening next year?
I'm convinced somebody walked into the locker room after week 1 and just took a baseball bat to his ribs. It was actually Anthony Lynn, like in a mask, just like a balaclava with a baseball bat. Poor Tyrod, man. Justin Herbert's been awesome. He's been great. He's been the best rookie quarterback to watch. Better than Joey B. Better than all the other cats. Can't remember their names off the top of my head.
I can't remember who else actually.
There's been about 4 or 5, but
Hurts as well.
Hurts, yeah, but no, Herbert's is better than if Hurts, Tua, and Joey Burrow all got into like a Megazord, like Power Rangers. Like Herbert's better than all of them put together. Chris, he's so exciting, but like the guy just needs help. He's and the thing about the Chargers is they've got one of the best rosters in the whole NFL. Like they've got some proper like Pro Bowlers on the defensive side, and like look at who Herbert's got. He's got like Keenan Allen. He's got Hunter Henry. He's got Austin Eckler. Like they are stacked. Like they just need if I'm not sure what their picks are like this year, but they just need to throw everything on the O-line. Just give him some protection, because the guy's just getting hurt. Like he's just going to get hurt next year. So yeah, I just think they need to draft an O-line, and then genuinely, if they drafted an O-line and brought in a competent coach, I think they can get into the playoffs just purely based on how good Herbert is.
Yeah, totally. I think that this is the exact combination that I want in 2021, but just the opposite. Like, get Herbert in from the start, but have Tyrod there in relief of him. Obviously, he was literally stabbed in the chest this year, which sort of took away from his starting position at the beginning of the season. I think that he's more than competent to start, Tyrod Taylor. But I think he needs to be the leader to Herbert for now. And I agree with everything you just said. Stack the deck around Justin Herbert. Like, look how good he was in a losing season. Like, I expect really big things from him in 2021. Like, I loved that bit where he did like a Dolph Ziggler where mid-season he shaved off all his hair, so he was just like, "Urgh." And I'm a big fan of that, but I'm glad we agree on that. 2 more teams in the AFC West. Let's talk about, this is a really interesting situation. A man who started all 16 games but might not keep his job. The Las Vegas Raiders, John Gruden's team. What did they do next season?
Well, I've not got the stats in front of me, so this might be wrong, but I'm really confident it's right. Derek Carr's probably had his best year in the NFL this year. I mean, obviously, when he first came in, they did that whole like 12-4 thing where he broke his leg. Poor guy.
I remember messaging you as soon as that happened in my sister's house, just being like, "Scott, I'm so sorry."
Yeah, but basically, I think Carr's had a really good year. The problem is, I just watch him sometimes and I'm just like, there's something missing here. And I do feel it's him. Like there's something about him where it's just like, he's not got it. He's not got the X factor. And I don't know. I just feel like, how many years do you give him being a pretty average quarterback? Like he's almost the new Andy Dalton. Like, you should make the Derek Carr line the sort of Andy Dalton line, because he's competent enough to be starting in the NFL. But it really depends on what the Raiders want to do. If they want to be one of the best teams in the NFL, then you're not going to get there with Derek Carr. But if you want to just like turn up and go 8-8 every year, then yeah, he's going to do that. Like I can see him comfortably doing 8-8 for the next 5 years. Like he deserves to have a job in the NFL. He deserves to start in the NFL, but he's just not like a great quarterback. And then obviously they've got Mariota as well, who is exactly the same case. Like, it's literally like, he's good. He's clearly talented. He's not a great quarterback. I don't know what the Raiders do. I don't think they've got it in them to drop either. I think they keep Derek Carr and Mariota and they roll into next year, but I don't see how they're going to get better doing that.
I think that you're right. And I think that a lot of people are like, of course they have to keep Derek Carr, but I don't think this peg is as solid as you would think. Like, John Gruden has done this before. He went to the Super Bowl with Brad Johnson, which I always remember because I had Madden 2003, best Madden ever. And I was like, Brad Johnson, why have I never heard of him? Because he played for about 40 teams before he took the Buccaneers to the Super Bowl in 2003. Gruden's done this before. He's moved on from massive franchise quarterbacks, like, inexplicably. But here's why I could see it. Raiders can cut Carr and save $19.5 million of his $22 million contract next year. There's also the fact that they are $8 million in the red right now heading into 21, and supposedly, don't know the full details of this, but the cap is going to go down this year as opposed to going up every year as it's done for like my entire life. But like, God's sake, it's Derek Carr. Top 10 completion percentage this year, top 10 passer rating this year. He moved to a new city for you and a new stadium. Do not be so stupid, John, to let this man go. I think he stays, but something just in the back of my head says, well, maybe, like, they could end up with only one of these two quarterbacks left. They could end up with none of them left. If Raiders, make some moves in the draft, oh my God, I'm going to be scared because Derek Carr will go to another team and he will 100% Ryan Tannehill this and make John Gruden look silly. That's the issue. Is John Gruden's never going to get sacked. He's under contract for 10 years or something mental like that, despite the fact that he's about 90 years old. I know. Brilliant. Right, one more team from the AFC West.
Yep.
Do you remember the name of the quarterback not called Patrick Mahomes who started 1 week this season?
Who is the backup?
Former Browns quarterback, I do believe.
Oh, but that doesn't help. Everybody's played for the Browns. Every single backup in the league is played for the Browns.
I think he also was at the Jags for a bit, but again,
it's either Ched Henne or Colt McCoy, I think.
Boom, nailed it. First time, Chad Henne. I lied. He's not been at the Browns. He spent 2008 to 2011 with the Dolphins, then the Jags for 5 seasons before ending up at the Chiefs in 2018. So he came in week 17 when Patrick Mahomes was again at home playing Madden as himself, eating ketchup from the bottle. But I mean, again, is there even a conversation here? What happens with them in 2021?
Yeah, I mean, I'll say this. I think Patrick Mahomes is perfectly coasted through this year. I do think the Bills have been better than the Chiefs. There's some mental stat that I keep on saying to you every week, but the number changes and gets bigger every week, which is that the Chiefs haven't won a game by more than 6 points in 7 or 8 weeks now. They're just not trying. They're 14-2, but they're not trying. Now that could mean that they're going to slip up in the playoffs somewhere, or it could mean that they're just going to put down, the pedal and win another Super Bowl really comfortably. But yeah, they've I don't think Patrick's had his best year, but he's fit, he's healthy, he's they are the top seed in the AFC, so job's a good one, really.
Yeah, the only caveat of the fact that Patrick Mahomes is going to be the Kansas City Chiefs quarterback until his legs are physically disconnected from his body is that while Mahomes is as sky high as he's always been, his team are being challenged more than ever before. Like, look, overtime to beat the Chargers, beaten by Raiders, beaten by the Chargers the second time round. And the teams that they scraped by, as you said, for the final 7 weeks of the season, Panthers, Buccaneers, Broncos, Dolphins, Saints, Falcons, and Raiders the second time, which they barely got by. I just think that, like, I'm watching this team and I'm thinking, is it what Scott's saying? Are they not arsed? Or are they getting, like, are people found them out? You know what I always say to you, Scott, is that there's always a team that comes from nowhere to be amazing for a year. But then when they try and do it again the second year, it doesn't work because they've got all the footage of what they did the first year and they get found out. You're currently looking at your Baltimore Ravens scarf. But I mean, the biggest example of this is like the Dallas Cowboys. They had that season when Dak first came in where they were amazing and untouchable with him and Zeke at the helm. And then the next season, it was just like, oh, look, they've stopped Dak and Zeke. What do they do now? But I just keep thinking this can't be right. Chiefs are, as you say, still in third gear, maybe, changing the radio station while they're driving. They're just waiting to turn it up. And at least I think they are. And that AFC Championship game, if it ends up Chiefs and Bills, is going to be amazing. It's going to be way better than any interest I have in the Super Bowl. But, let's wait and see. Okay, Scott, you ready to go home?
Yeah, let's do it.
This is the only division in the NFL which actually makes any sense. If you look at the AFC North on a map, it's the only division where the teams are actually all near each other. Thank God it's the home of the teams that we support. Where should we start? Who came last in this division? Zach Taylor and the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, again, I think I've got this right, but my numbers only add up to 15, so I've definitely missed someone somewhere. Joe Burrow, 10 games. Brandon Allen, 4 games. Ryan Finley, 1 game, and Scott Hastie started the other game. What's going to happen in 2021?
Hopefully, I get the starting gig. That was the tie. I started in the tie.
Yeah.
But no. I mean, listen, Joey Burrow was good fun whilst we had him. I think they've improved massively. Zach Taylor looks competent. I was watching an interview with Joe Burrow yesterday, and he was talking about how he is a big fan of Zach Taylor and he works well with him. So listen, like we don't want the Bengals to be good because it makes our jobs harder, but I kind of want them to be a little bit competitive. I don't want to just walk in and slap them every time, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really happy that Joe Burrow's here. The first year worked out pretty well. Listen, like, nobody's 100% fit because of the way that this season's been. So players were going down like flies, especially remember, like, I think it was week 2 or week 3 when we had the like D-Day of like injuries. It was horrible.
Yep.
So it's not a problem. He's not injury prone. It's just that this has been a very difficult season for everybody's legs because of the amount of like rest time and the inability to train together and things like that. So, I think Joe Burrow had a terrific first season. I'm looking forward to seeing him next year.
Yeah, I honestly think this is a little bit of a sugly peg, but for Zach Taylor, not Joe Burrow. I think he needs a good season from Joe next year in order to save his job. It has to be said that Joe, he wasn't exactly flying before going down injured. Like, the Bengals were still not winning many games. But I definitely think he returns, and I definitely think he progresses. Like what you were saying just there about how mental this season was. Like, Joe Burrow came in as the first overall pick and didn't have a preseason to warm up with the team. He's never been near them before in his life. I get that he was a very good quarterback at LSU.
Yeah.
LSU, thank God. But he needed those games to warm up with this team. He did a Seth Rollins. Like, he got to the top of the franchise and his legs literally buckled underneath him because there was so much pressure on him, and his knee exploded, or his ankle, or whatever it was that broke. I think he'll be back.
I don't know. I think Joey was good. Like, he had like 3 games this year where he was over 100 passer rating. This is the best thing ever. He played the Browns twice and scored and dunked 6 touchdowns on them, which is great. In the first of those games, he threw for 406 yards. He wound up finishing the season 2,688, 13 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, and pretty much 90 bang on passer rating. That's pretty good.
Yeah, that's definitely. I mean, I will talk about it more in episode 2, but I think Aaron Rodgers led the league at 97. So 90, you're in the conversation. I feel we should touch on it as well. Brandon Allen, 4 starts this year, 5 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. Not under contract for 2021. Might not be back, but played very well in relief of Joe. Did he beat the Steelers, or was it Ryan Finley, or was it my dad again who beat the Steelers? It was definitely one of them.
I think we know the Steelers beat themselves.
They did. They absolutely did. Okay, let's quickly move on. So, who finished third in this division?
The Browns.
Was it you?
No. How dare you?
How dare I? We'll get to the best team, who is a bird and also purple, in just a second. But let's first go to the team who only formed in 1999, yet I think might have just had their best season of their existence. The Cleveland Browns, headed up by Kevin Stefanski and Baker Mayfield at all 16 games. Is there any question of what happens next year?
Nah, I think if there's one thing the Browns are really like they're bad at a lot. The Browns are bad at a lot of stuff, but if there's one thing they're atrocious at, it's stability. And I think that, like, guys, you've got this stable. Don't touch it. Just leave it. Leave the big red button. Don't touch it this year. I mean, there were some points this year where Baker was looking a bit shaky, and the sort of chatter did start to come in. And, you know, this is it. You need to You need to move on from him. But you know what? He pulled it out. The second half of the season, especially, he pulled it out. He got them into the playoffs. Can we let the Baker Mayfield chat die now? He's good. He is a great quarterback. Let's like stop that. He's the one to break the curse. I'm not saying he's going to win a Super Bowl, but he's broken the curse. And Kevin Stefanski, you know, I don't know if he's great, but at least he's competent, and that should be enough right now.
A lot of people questioned when he came into the league, Baker Mayfield's attitude, me included. There was that video of him running away from the police and getting tackled in college. And I remember talking to you about it and just being like, what the hell is this? This looks absolutely awful. But he's progressed so much in the last 2-3 years. He has been much like Josh Allen in that time. He's had constant progression every single season. He's responsible for this year's game of the season alongside your boys, the Ravens. He had a passer rating of 96. Lamar had 99. He had a completion percentage of 63. Lamar had 64. He's got the best chance to compete with the Ravens for years to come. I've completely changed my tune on him. I didn't like Baker Mayfield when he first came into the league. I think those adverts, for the progressive adverts, just make him shine so much. Do you know the ones I mean, where he lives in the Cleveland Browns Stadium?
Yeah, they're great. They're great.
Most recent one that I saw is when he's going to leave the stadium to do some stuff, and his wife like forgets her phone charger or something like that, and he has to run back into the stadium. He has to take out all his keys in his metal, and he has to go through the electronic gates, and then he has to do it again and again and again. Yeah, I've completely changed my tune on him. He is the best Browns quarterback of their lifetime. Like, I mean, since 1999. But get this, Scott, the last time the Cleveland Browns had a quarterback start 2 consecutive seasons of every game was the 1980 and 1981 seasons. Brian Sipe, his Wikipedia pictures in black and white, for God's sake. Like, this is what we need. Like, there's a brilliant song that's out there on the internet somewhere that I think I first heard through Colin Cowherd, which is the Browns are a dumpster fire. And in the song, it goes through all of those quarterbacks since like Tim Couch. It's been a long wait for Browns fans, right? And the Baker Mayfield era started with a tie game against the Pittsburgh Steelers a couple of seasons ago. Does the next stage of this era begin with a win over the Pittsburgh Steelers in the wild card round of the NFL playoffs in 2020? Dear God, I hope not. But it would be very fun to see. Well done, Baker. You've impressed me so much. Right, we've got 2 more teams left. I'm only ending on the Steelers because they won the division, not because I'm a massive,
absolutely.
not because I'm a massive mark. Baltimore Ravens, Lamar Jackson, 15 games. Robert Griffin III, 1 game. Let's not forget about that. Led by, I mean, I have no bones about saying this, John Harbaugh is one of the best coaches in the NFL, maybe even ever, and he gets just forgotten about in the shuffle. Tell me about how, you don't need to tell me about who's starting for the Baltimore Ravens next season, so just tell me about how great this season has been.
So this season for me, right, has been frustrating, not on the field, but off the field. It's just the echo chambers of, to be honest, really triggered me at times. I will say this, right, the Ravens obviously last year were the best team in the NFL. Despite that, I think this year has been Lamar Jackson's best year in the NFL. I feel so calm and confident when he's on the field, because the way that kid's growing and how mature he's getting is just incredible. He's younger than Joe Burrow. He's the youngest quarterback in the playoffs, and there are 10 other starting quarterbacks that are younger than him. That's a great stat. Here's some other great stats. First quarterback ever to have 2 1,000-yard rush seasons. And he's also the youngest quarterback to get 30 career wins.
That's insane.
Yeah. The thing is, right?
That's in 2 seasons.
2.5, but yeah. When you look at all the records in the history books in a couple of years, Lamar Jackson's going to have most of the records for a quarterback. I think he will. Apart from the kind of like, you know, any record that involves having an enormous arm, but because he doesn't have that. But I do think that he's definitely an underrated passer, and we know how good he is as a rusher. as kind of like an ad-lib kind of game decision maker. Like he's electric at that. I think this has been Lamar's best season. I really do. I've been so impressed. I think we lost 5 games, and despite the way that the NFL usually works, where the best team from last year has the easiest schedule, I actually don't think we had an easy schedule. It wound up being quite a tricky schedule. We lost 5 games, and the games that we lost, I think only one of them really we shouldn't have lost. So we got beaten by the Chiefs, which is like, it's going to happen.
Yep.
We got beaten by you guys twice, and like, who was to know that you were going to go on and have like almost a perfect season until the wheels kind of fell off towards the end. But like 5 weeks ago, I had a bet on the Steelers finishing 16-0. Why not? So we lost to you twice. We lost to the Patriots, which is maybe the only one. But then at the same time, it's Bill Belichick in the rain. That's a trap game, So I wasn't necessarily angry at losing that. And then we got beat by the Titans, which doesn't bode well for this weekend. But I still think that for me, I just don't know how good the Titans are. They might actually be just brilliant, and we don't realize it yet. So I'm not necessarily angry that we finished 11-5. Some people will view that as like a bad thing. But I think we had a pretty top season. We had some injuries, especially on kind of the O-line and defense, which kind of hindered things. I think Lamar's been terrific. The only thing I would say is, and I know I've spoken about Ravens more than other teams, but that's just, because I've got a lot to say.
Mm-hmm.
We really need to draft in a big wide receiver. Like the guy needs a target, because Marquise Brown is like the height of one of Cinderella's mice. Like he's just, it's not going to work. We keep on drafting these like little mincy wee guys up top, and it's just like, we need a big chunky dude that just sits up there. And I know we've been linked to a lot of players in the offseason, like Julio Jones, who understandably wants out of the Falcons. We've been linked to Chris Godwin from the Bucks, who's a free agent. We've been linked to Kenny Golladay from the Lions, who's a free agent. There's big chunky guys. Go and get one. So yeah, that's my one wish. I don't even want us to draft one, because I don't want another rookie. I want us to bring in somebody that knows what they're doing. That's the only thing that Lamar needs, in my opinion. I think we are good for next year.
It's funny, you talked about him not having a big arm. He's not going to bomb balls down the field. Like, well, see if he's got 4 receivers that are running towards the end zone, pulling 2 linebackers and 2 cornerbacks and maybe a safety. He's never thrown that. He's just going to run for 40 yards instead. I am going to say 4 words to you. Baltimore 47, Cleveland 42. Game of the season. It was the game where Lamar pulled off 2 amazing number 2s. The first was mid-game when he ran off the field, and the second was when they scored the 2-point conversion to either, was it tie or take the lead? I can't remember. I loved that game so much, despite the fact it's between 2 of the teams I hate more than anything. I will say this, Scott. I think that Ravens will move on this season unless he takes a huge discount. Yes, RG3 won't be back unless he takes a cut. He's a free agent this season. He'll be earning $2 million this season. It has to drop to about 1.3 because when he came in for that one game against the Steelers, he didn't play anywhere near as well as I would have expected. Lamar, of course, lock him up for the rest of his life. It's a shame he hasn't got the goods out of his receivers. You've explained it perfectly how they need a big receiver. Could you say that Hollywood Brown was a mixed box office success?
He's been a bit of a flop. He has been a bit of a flop and a drop, many drops.
But yeah, this team are set up for the most part for a good 2021. And do you know what, Scott? There was one reason, and one reason only, that you lost to the Titans this year, and that was to set up just how many people are going to be watching that wildcard game. After last season and the game this season, is it lightning striking thrice, or is this the game where Lamar finally gets the win? I can't wait to watch it.
Yeah, I don't know how to comment on it. I don't know.
Good that we're now going on to the Pittsburgh Steelers, the team which I never comment on their success ever for fear of jinxing. The Pittsburgh Steelers, led by my favorite NFL coach of all time, Mike Tomlin, had Ben Roethlisberger for 15 of 16 games this season, with Mason Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer coming in for that final game. It was so much fun to watch. It was up and down. It was one of my favorite Steelers seasons in history, but I have to go to you first. My mortal enemy. What do you think is going to happen with Ben, with Mason? You can give me some chat on Dobbs, and I'm sure the Ducks kicking about somewhere as well, if you want to mention him.
Yeah, I mean, it would be great if you could, stop going to the local prison to hire all your backup quarterbacks. But no, I won't. Right, so Steelers is really interesting. First of all, I want to say well done. What a great season. I think there's been some really good standout players this year. Ben has been one of them. I think James Washington, wow, great. If you need to cap space, cap Juju. Like, it's not hard. I think James Conner's been great as well. Yeah, you've just been awesome. We're going to talk a little bit towards the end about individual players, but TJ Watt is one of the best players in the NFL. Full stop. Yeah, I think you deserve more than 12-4. You should have probably finished higher. I don't know who's to blame. I think you do need to do some finger pointing, and I think if you lose this weekend, you really need to do some finger pointing. But yeah, you really shouldn't have lost the 4 games. In terms of next year, it's really tricky because like Ben is really good, but at the same time, it's scary. Like it's coming. The end is coming. And you've not got the future quarterback at your club right now. So I think there's a lot of people. There's a lot of potential quarterbacks in the NFL that you should be looking at the moment. Like, Christ, could you imagine how over it would be for the rest of us if you managed to prize Watson away from Houston?
Don't even put that idea in my head,
well,
Scott.
The thing is, right, is that the Steelers are attractive. Any quarterback should want to go to the Steelers that plays for the Houston Texans. Or there's a bundle of other like great young or even slightly older quarterbacks that are at men's teams that could take the upgrade to the Steelers. They're just a good team to want to go and play for. So I don't know. I think Ben's maybe got next year on him. I do. I don't think you're going to draft a rookie. I wouldn't draft a rookie. It's a bad class. But I think you should start thinking about what happens next.
I'll take all your advice on board, and I agree with that. I think 2020, if you look at Ben's numbers, he was right back to his stats of pre-injury. He got like underreported knee injury in the middle of the season, and it really affected his performance. Like the way he like poised himself to throw the ball was off, and that's why there was that slump that started with the Ravens RG3 game. I think that the combination we have is the combination we will see in 2020. Whether or not that is right or not, I think it's the combination we'll see. I think something that could be interesting if Steelers get maybe another 2 weeks in this postseason would be the added option of Josh Dobbs. He went for his, what do you call it in New Japan when the wrestlers get bumped off for a wee bit and they go to like Mexico or the US for a
bit? Yeah.
I can't remember what that's called. It's like a sabbatical or something. Like he did a little prodigal son mission where he went and sat on the bench at Jacksonville for a wee while, and it seemed to help him. Dobbs came in week 17 and did this weird like Lamar Jackson impression, combining with Mason Rudolph, where he'd occasionally come in to do like wildcat plays, and I thought that was really cool. And I was like, I could see Steelers playing 3 quarterbacks throughout this postseason and next season in an attempt not only to like win, but to get Rudolph and Dobbs up to speed. And yeah, they could maybe draft a quarterback. Like I could see that happening this year. But you're right, don't waste the picks if you don't need to. Ben, I would like to see, and I'm going to say this, and I've never said it before in my life. I would like to see him play 2 more seasons, purely because I think that Rivers will finish at the end of this season. And in terms of career wins, I think he has a chance at topping. No, sorry, not Rivers. Breeze. I think he has a chance at topping Breeze in terms of game wins. And to do that, he would need 2 good seasons. I think he needs about 18 games or something like that over 2 seasons. I'd like him to do that and get to, I think, number 4 all time in terms of wins by a starting quarterback. And the top, if you look at the top 4, it's like a who's who. I think it's like Favre, Manning, Brady, and somebody else.
Marino, I think it is.
Yeah, something like that. And I really want him to get Ben to that really upper echelon of like NFL quarterbacks. I mean, if he's not there already. I have a really blinkered view on this whole thing. I think I've said this to you before, Scott. Like, Ben Roethlisberger started for the Pittsburgh Steelers a week before I started watching NFL. He's all I've ever known, and for a man that has all of his faults, he is my NFL hero. I don't know. Scott, will I still watch NFL when he leaves? I constantly worry about this. I have so many Pittsburgh Steelers shirts with his name on the back. Like, I'm all in on him as a quarterback. I'm going to be so sad the day that he leaves. Last season was almost like a sort of get ready, I'm not going to be here forever type deal. And it's amazing that like we've had this brilliant quarterback for so long. Steelers have been so lucky their whole existence in terms of great quarterbacks, going all the way back to Teddy Bradshaw, taking them to 4 Super Bowls and all that. Like, who knows what happens next? But it's going to be fun to watch next season. Hopefully we get the exact same combination of players. To go back to what you said about Juju and Connor, the only issue is I don't think they are under contract for next season, and if they are, it's not for a lot of money. And Steelers are one of those teams like the Saints who are not in a great position cap-wise. So if both of those players come back, plus Ben, plus all those brilliant defensive players we need back, who knows? Fingers crossed that they're all back, though. So that closes out the AFC North and closes out our analysis of the starting quarterbacks of the AFC. I think we did a good job there.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I do agree with you. I think the winner of this year's Super Bowl is definitely going to come from the AFC.
Good, because we're the better side. NFC's rubbish in comparison. America. Right, so that is the end of episode 1 of Fourth and Out. We have analysed all the quarterbacks in the AFC. Please join us in episode 2, when, of course, we're going to flip to the other side. We're going to analyse every one of the NFC starting quarterback. And, Scott, we're going to do something fun at the end that you touched on a bit earlier.
Yeah. We're going to look at who our favourite players have been this year.
Excellent. So, as I said earlier, if you've got any positive feedback on this, wherever you might be watching it or listening to it, please give us a comment or messages and tell us know what you thought. If you've got any negative thoughts, then go screw yourself. It's the 8th of January. Have a bit of positivity in your life. God damn it. Scott is nodding in agreement. Thank you so much for listening and watching, and we'll see you soon.